We have three wonderful fellows to make presentations today, and they're all about success. The fellows have had a very successful year, and many of you have been a big part of their success. We're grateful to Humphrey, the State Department, IIE, and all of the organizations that make this possible, and especially those here in the Cronkite School. Hearts and minds as mentors and host families to make this program work. Today we're going to defy the doomsdayers in three different ways from three very unique different parts of the world, a couple of them right next to each other. So we'll finish up with those, but we'd like to start down in the wonderful country of Africa with Tabu, and then Leela from Nepal will share her stories, and we'll finish up with Intizar from Afghanistan.
Thank you everyone for sparing your lunchtime to be here. I know it's a very difficult decision to make, always. I also want to thank Dr. Bill and Christy for managing this program ably here at the Walter Cronkite School. This afternoon, I have the task to speak about the topic, which is defying the doomsayers until success of developing nations. My name is Tabu Butagira. I work as a chief reporter for the Daily Monitor newspaper. Uganda is a country of about 5 million according to the census done last year. As you see, it's a landlocked country and surrounded by three big countries. South Sudan over there, we have Democratic Republic of Congo here, and then we have Tanzania down there, and our only gateway to the sea is through Kenya or through Tanzania. And so that presents physical incapacitation in terms of immediate reach to the sea and doing international trade. So Uganda is a country which former British Premier Winston Churchill described as the pearl of Africa for its priceless treasures, which among others obviously is flora and fauna. And if you went to the countryside, it's a really beautiful place to be. Uganda lies on the equator, and that tells you that there's very pleasant weather all year round. We don't need AC probably in the room for the most part. This is important because in World Bank's calculations, they say how much money do you spend determines what your welfare is. Now, that cannot be the same story for Uganda, especially if you consider that we don't spend on energy that much, except if you want to run bulbs in the night, or if you're spending on industry and other production activity. This weather you see now in Phoenix, which is very pleasant, is what we experience, as a matter of fact, every single day. And I did take it for granted until I came to Phoenix, and I was confronted with temperatures way above 100 Fahrenheit, which is like almost reaching 40 degrees Celsius. And for the first time, I realized how pleasant actually Uganda is. And over the winter break, I went to the east. I got battered by cold, which was actually -5 degrees Fahrenheit. So these are some of the things that I can just show you. This picture was taken by my friend and mentor, Kefa Atibudi, this weekend. He was just driving from an upcountry town and to the capital, and this you find on the roads, and people throw corn through the window for them, and they pick and they run, and so you have a game when you're driving over there. It's gifted by nature, so because it lies on the equator and the weather is very good, we have unlimited access to fresh food, which you just pluck off from the garden, and you can have this in your backyard. And part of the reason why this is important is actually that you don't need to, some people don't actually see money in 1 month, but they feed very well because you get vegetables from the backyard, you go and get fresh beans from the garden, you get bananas over there, or your fruit cassava, all organic, nice food. So that's part of something that I'm missing here. And you have very nice places to go and spend your money, especially if you want to. The United States invests about $740 million each year in Uganda. Most of that money is spent on health, security, and agriculture. And I'll expound on the subject of security cooperation. So Uganda is a people who are very warm at heart. The hospitality is legendary, and clearly we care and we're very empathetic to people. We have a sense of belonging, a sense of community, and we think that a child actually belongs to the community and not the parents. And that, for me, is one of the most resourceful things for our country because it keeps neighborhood watch. Everybody is the brother's keeper. In fact, my colleague Priscilla said when she came, she just told the neighbors, I'm going to the United States. My kids are here, 3 of them. You've got to find out to take care of them. They need to be safe. And you know that there had been serious Ebola problems in Liberia. And the neighbors were fine. So fine, wish you well, go. These are our children, they'll grow up. That is very fundamental because it helps instill early in life the value system that is important when people grow up when growing up as a child, got punished by my neighbors, and whenever I offended, and they'll bring me to my parents and say, this guy committed this crime. I tended to be a little bit naughty. Now I probably am not as naughty as I used to be. And actually, your parents would have no qualms with the neighbor and say, thank you very much. This was very good. Because if a kid grows up and becomes a criminal or a problem for the society, he doesn't rob from the parents. He robs the neighbors. He robs from other people. Which is why the family value is very important still in Uganda, as in for the most of Africa. And we don't despise. We take people for who they are and have a very genuine relationship. And that engagement for us is a capital investment because it shapes our overall interaction and the wealth, health, and growth of societies. Let's take this video.
So here's a clip showing the subtle difference between Gordon Brown and Barack Obama. Here they are arriving at number 10, and look at this lucky policeman gets to shake hands with the President of the United States. Oh, here comes the Prime Minister of it. No.
Now, that is typically an Ugandan and an African, because we think that a human being has a value by the very fact of their existence. Tonight, I want to introduce you a caliber of Ugandans that probably you never heard about. Because for the long part, Uganda had been known by the brutality of Idi Amin, and he came to symbolize what we as a people are. Far from it, today, I'm introducing to you the following people. Kwasi, who was the first black NASA flight control director. His dad comes from Uganda. Professor Ami Otunu is the UNESCO chair here in the United States, and the first one. That one. Winnie Byanyima is the executive director of Oxfam International. Sam Kutesa is the president of the United Nations General Assembly. I introduce those people because you never hear about them. I'm trying to hazard the thought that this probably is your first time to hear about them. Why? Because, you know, they did not fit the typical African story. They were not like kids over whose noses flies were buzzing. They were not sort of shipped here by NGOs that can break through lobby groups and have an access to the front pages of New York Times or any other national publication. They couldn't feature probably prominently or even be consulted as experts to speak on African issues because the understanding is that Uganda or Africa does not have the capacity to produce people who can play a game-changing role on the international stage. Now, that's what my friend Angelo disagrees with, which is that he says there tends to be a question on a topic like this to cast a story as to nature against nurture, which is, would a Ugandan or an African thrive as much if they were in another environment? Or would the people in another environment perform as good or better if they were in Africa or any other part of the developing world? Now, I raise this because I think it is part of what shapes the African narrative. Let me now delve into what I consider the most important success stories for Uganda over the last several years. One is the anti-apartheid struggle. In fact, Uganda was very invested in the liberation of South Africa, that it opened up its land to act as a training camp for the African National Congress Youth Wing. And today, there's actually a barracks established there, which is called the Oliver Tambo School of Leadership. So that was its contribution, and it had very serious ramifications that I'm not able to delve into as a result of constraints of time. The second is HIV/AIDS. Uganda became the poster child for fight against the pandemic in the world because it adopted a more open policy of abstinence, being faithful to your partner, or using condoms. And that drove down the HIV prevalence rates from double digits of about 27 to 5.7. Of course, over the last couple of years, it has tended to go up as a result of complacency and abandonment of the ABC policy, which many countries came to learn about and adopt. The third issue that I want to raise about Uganda's success is in the creation of South Sudan and the modern-day Rwanda. When the world folded charm, the Rwandan people who actually fought and liberated that country got their training, got their support, and used Uganda as the back to support the operations for the 1994 successful liberation of that country. And in South Sudan, our soldiers are still invested there in trying to sort of stabilize the country, and they fought along the SPLA to get that country to exist. There's the issue of the Lords of Resistance Army. Of course, you know that the Lords of Resistance Army leader, Joseph Kony, is one of the world's most wanted. This is where American engagement in Uganda is at its highest. There's the joint operation which Uganda is leading right now in a number of East African countries. In fact, Uganda has more troops in active combat operations outside of the country than any other country in the world. We have troops in South Sudan, troops in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the Central African Republic, and of course, we contribute the biggest contingent for the African Union peacekeeping mission in Somalia. That for the first time managed to flush out the Al-Shabaab from Mogadishu. And some of you may be very familiar with the story of the Black Hawk incident in 1993, where actually American choppers were shot down and the special forces were killed and their bodies dragged on the streets. And they abandoned that country, and for decades there was no rule there until Uganda got in March 2007, supported of course by other countries, Burundi, Djibouti, Ethiopia now, and Kenya, and so there's a lot of stability coming in there. So that's the role Uganda is playing in regional peace and security. The other one is the issue of hosting refugees. You know, ordinary people give out their land. They don't have as much, but because they appreciate the value of humanity, they offer their land out and say, come and settle here. You've been displaced from your country. There's nothing much I can do for you, but at least I have a land where you can squat. And so Uganda has, according to UNHCR figures, presently 540 to about 690,000 refugees, mainly from Congo, from South Sudan, from Eritrea, and there are about 100 stateless people who are also in Uganda. The other aspect is of fighting Ebola. When the world went helter-skelter over the issue of Ebola, Uganda got its workforce there because we have had Ebola episodes for 4 times since 2000. And so there is a national emergency task force, and we took this expertise together with other countries and supported by global actors to go there. And in fact, the African Union team was led precisely by a Ugandan called Major General Julius Oketa, who after the Ebola issue was settled in Liberia received the Distinguished Service Order, the DSO, of Liberian government. So we engaged across the African continent and internally in many game-changing activities. The last is, of course, oil and gas, which is coming up for exploitation in 2018, and we do hope from that time Uganda will be a far better place. Thank you very much for listening.
In terms of Uganda, you mentioned accomplishments, peace and security, acceptance of refugees, being involved in task forces such as that of Ebola. Who are the friends of Uganda in the world, countrywide? I mean, who are most of your relations with? Who is most of your trade with? Because as you say, and my other Ugandan friends say, there's an image back with Idi Amin that many people have not progressed beyond. Who are you connected to?
It's a fairly broad geopolitical question. Uganda's biggest trading partner have been the immediate neighbors. In fact, for a longer time, it had been South Sudan until the war broke out in December 2013. But Uganda continues to engage on a wide range of subjects across the world. And so on the matter of security cooperation, Uganda is the United States' strongest security ally in the Great Lakes region, which, as you will understand, is actually a security fault line for the most part of it, because Eastern Congo is still, a basket case there. South Sudan has serious problems. Uganda also has questions about what the transition will be from our current president, who has been in power for 29 years, to the next leader. And we have never had peaceful power transfer since independence in 1962. And so there are real questions of the sustainability of the peace right now, depending on how that transition happens. Uganda deals with all countries across the world, depending on the interest obtaining at the time.
Go, Richard, and then we'll go back here.
In the past programs, we've talked or learned about how the younger generation has oftentimes have different perspectives and offer different potentials. How about in your countries? Is there much tension between what the younger people, or I would assume that not everyone is like you, that's who are young.
Yeah, quick answers. Quick answers.
Okay, so like 31% of the African population are living under the age of 30, and 40 to 60% of them are unemployed. And after 2014, that will be a higher rate. So now the power is dispensed between the strongmen of Afghanistan and their cronies. Youngsters are so eager and they are capable to take the power, but that's take time. We need like 10 to 20 years to make sure the youngsters are coming to the power and take the lead.
Yeah, Uganda's largest population obviously is the young one, and they're getting a lot more educated, and that's one of the favorable demographic issues for Uganda and for Africa as a whole. But there are also differences of opinion and differences of practice and value systems, and the more dot-com class, and then the more orthodox older generation and stuff like that. So there are differences in terms of thinking and approaching issues, but there's also the modernization where, I mean, among the younger folk, civilization or modernization tends to be pro-Western and discarding, traditional values, and there's an identity question sometimes in value systems with the younger generation.
Yeah, we have the same problem. We have all parties leader are much older, like above 75. Actually our prime minister is 74 years, and even people can't understand his voice because his all teeth is already gone. The older generation always want to hold the power.
Let's give a round of applause.